Hello, the Curious You, and welcome to the sixth episode of the Curious You podcast. I'm your host, Nina, and I am so happy and grateful you're here with me today. It is a beautiful day outside. The sun is out, the birds are chirping, and there's a beautiful green tree that's standing right outside my dining room window. As I was looking at the tree a couple of days ago, I was thinking about nature and how amazing it is. Like only a couple of weeks ago, this tree was completely naked, completely vulnerable, and susceptible to external circumstances. And now it has blossomed. It has these beautiful, strong green leaves, and it's different. It's just different. It's more powerful than it was only a couple of weeks ago. And this made me think about the human experience and how similar that experience is to a tree. I know this might sound funny right now, but don't worry, we'll get there. So let's dig into today's podcast. All right. Are we ready to talk about the beautiful green tree? Just kidding, that won't be the topic of today's podcast. But as I've said, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the human experience, what it means to go from being a naked, vulnerable human being to blossom. What does it take to get from point A to point B, and how do you feel in the process? If you remember, in the last few podcast episodes, I've talked about the feeling of being inspired, of learning new things about the world, about yourself, implementing it, and just feeling sparkly and glittery. And that is a beautiful thing to feel. I'm pretty sure both you and I aim to feel that way day by day. But let's be honest, that's not the reality of life. So, what happens is that no matter what you do in life, as you know, you reach a phase where things just get hard or they get monotone, they get boring. You ask yourself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Is this worth it? Should I go back to how it was? In my specific case, these were all legit questions that I kept asking myself after diving into self growth. As I told you, the beginning was lovely, marvelous. I was inspired. I was talking about these topics with everybody. I wanted everyone to know what I knew. But then months passed and I had to do the work. I had to change myself for the better. I had to grow a business at the same time while keeping my family, while being a wonderful mom, wife, while leading myself, taking myself to the gym, reading books, eating healthy, sleeping well. All of those things take a lot of energy. But I just knew that if I wanted to succeed in my business, I first have to succeed at home. I have to succeed in my own brain. And that takes a lot of work, a lot of work. So, what happens then is that you're entering a tunnel. Metaphorically, I think of it as a dark tunnel where there's not a lot of people inside it, because the more you go into self growth topics, the less people understand you. But the more you understand them and how this world works, which is a completely funny thing to feel. But you're entering this tunnel and you feel alone, you feel scared, you feel completely cold, completely naked, completely vulnerable, just like the tree in December, but you're still there. You're still in the tunnel and you're going towards the end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel. And what I want you to take from this is that you need to know where you're going. You need to have an idea for your life. You need to know what lights you up, what kind of a life you want to lead. And I know that this is not an easy thing to understand. This is also a process of its own, but it's a crucial one. It's a crucial conversation to have with yourself to know where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, but you're in the tunnel, there's going to be a problem. The tunnel will feel even harder than it is. It will be even longer than it should be. So, knowing why you're doing what you're doing is the first prerequisite before entering this whole process. For me, specifically, I'll give you an example. I knew that I just had to, all the things that were in my head, I knew they had to come out. I knew that I have a certain point of view on life that if I don't say it out loud, I will feel like I'm choking. That's how I felt a few years back. I felt like I was talking a lot, but I wasn't saying much. And I knew that the conversations I was having with people around me were not the conversations that I wanted to have. I kept imagining in my head the type of people I would meet, the type of conversations I would have, and I would get butterflies in my stomach. You know what I mean? Those moments where you just imagine stuff in your head and you get butterflies and it feels amazing. But then you open your eyes and you feel like you're so far away from that moment. And I had that constantly. I just knew that there is something there out there for me and that I needed to get my thoughts out, that I can bring something to this world in a way that only I can bring to this world. And that was the higher power for me. That was something that drove me into self growth, that drove me into this tunnel. Because let's face it, life before all of this was fine. It was good. I didn't have a lot of stress. I had a 9 to 5. I closed my laptop. I'm done. I get to be with my kids, enjoy my husband. We can have wine in the evening, travel during the weekends. But I knew that give me 5 more years of life like that, and I will get bored. I will not appreciate that freedom the way I appreciate it now. I just knew in advance that feeling that way will not be enough for me in 5 years, and that in 5 years, I want to be my higher version of myself. That in 5 years, I want to be having those conversations that I was only having in my head. Because every time I would talk to people about these type of things, most of the time people are not interested, people do not understand, they have their own lives, or they could have these conversations for 20, 30 minutes, but then they move on with life. But you see, for me, it was more of, no, this is my life. I don't want to move on from this. I want to keep talking about this. I want to keep helping improve the world, to help new generations, to help people around me, because I see so many problems in this world that are all leading back to a person's mindset. And it is not about, you know how they say history repeats itself. And I truly believe it's not history that repeats itself. It's people that repeat the same patterns. And because of that, history repeats itself. Because we're not able as a society to implement the right mindset into young people. We keep making them believe that everything is outside of us, right? The weather is bad, so you don't do something. The situation in the country is bad, so don't start a business. The I don't know what is bad outside of yourself, so you're stuck. And this is what we start believing. I believed it myself. When I was looking for jobs, they tell you, oh, the job market is bad. It will be so hard to find a job. And this becomes your belief. You think it's hard to find a job. So what will happen? It will be hard to find that job. But nobody tells you that anything is possible if you believe in it. Because again, I'm repeating this, but science has proven that what you can imagine is real because your body cannot distinguish between your imagination and the reality. That fact is insane, but not a lot of people talk about it. And this is the kind of conversation that I want to be having with you on this podcast. So let's talk about what it means to feel like life is hard. And when I say this, there are two types of scenarios. Of course, there's a scenario which is normal. I have it, you have it. We just have a bad day. It can mean crashing on the couch, watching Netflix. You're not inspired. You're not in the mood to talk business development. You just want your brain not to think. And that is completely fine. To be honest, I've had these days last week. I think there were like 3 days in a row. But to be honest, I was in that phase of the month. So I allowed myself that space because it's also not about hustling and rushing and feeling like we need to be overproductive every day. And this is not, absolutely not what I'm talking about. Quite contrary, I feel like we need to be in contact with ourselves, in touch with our needs when it comes to our body and our head as well. So we really need to be intuitive when moving forward, right? Because life is not a straight line. There are days when we're going to be down on the couch, and then there are days when we're, flying high in the sky and that we feel like we can do anything, that anything is possible. And I feel like respecting these seasons is very important when setting yourself on that road. So that's one type of feeling hard. The other type of feeling hard is a hard that not a lot of people talk about. It is the hard of going from point A to point B. Because if you say that one day, I will again talk from my example because I think it's the easiest way to understand. But let's say one day I'm Nina, who has a full time job and who's a lawyer. And then I want to become a leading children's book author and I want to have the Best Mindset podcast and I don't know, a lot of other things on my list, but let's say in the beginning, I want to accomplish these two things. So there is a line to go from point A to point B, and it is not a short line. And I feel like not a lot of people understand that to get from point A to point B is a difficult process, because we all think that once you decide in your brain, that's it. You can set yourself on that journey. And that's honestly how I thought last year when entering all of this. I thought, to be honest, it would be much easier than it actually is. But now I know why not a lot of people succeed, because it really takes everything out of you. And it requires you to change your old ways. It requires you to become a different, a higher version of yourself than you already are. Because Nina, who's a lawyer, who has a full-time job, she led a different life, a completely different life than the Nina who she sees in the future. There's another example with motherhood. It's a perfect example. You become a mom or you become a dad, and you have no idea what you're doing. I remember the first time I held Sophia and she was crying and I was crying. And then the night came and she was still crying and I was still crying. And I remember telling my husband, God, I'm going to be the worst mom in the whole world, because that's literally how I felt. I had no idea what I was doing. And he told me, no, you will be the best mom in the world. He didn't know that, but he was just, making me feel better. And it did make me feel better. But the truth was, I wasn't this woman who got her child and instantly got this mom instinct. Like, no, I really had no idea what I was doing. For the first 2 years, I think I was just faking it. I was just going along with the flow, but I didn't feel like this real mom has awoken in me. But now I've been a mom for 5 years. I've practiced it every day. There, I didn't have a day where I would wake up and I would say, oh, I don't feel like being a mom today, so I'm just going to skip it. Like, that doesn't happen. I'm a mom. I'm a mom every day. But this kind of dedication in parenting is the best example of how you can transition from A to B. Because after being a parent for a few years, you really become a parent. You become a wonderful mom, a wonderful dad, because you've worked hard on becoming that. You've been dedicated to becoming that person. You've learned what it means to be a good mom, what it means to be a good dad. You've read dozens of books. You've learned from your experience. You failed, you get up. You, I don't know, scream at your child. You beg for forgiveness the second later, and you learn how to regulate your emotions in the process of all of that. So it is this process of becoming, and parenting is hard. It is a dark tunnel of sorts. But now, after 5 years, I feel like I see the light. I feel like parenting got so much easier because I got better at it. And this is what I'm talking about, this type of hard, because we cannot avoid it no matter what we do. If we want to accomplish anything big in life, we need to go through the hard season. And that's another fact that I think that a lot of people don't understand. We think that we need to be inspired all the time. We need to feel good all the time. We need to be happy all the time. That's a lie. Who's happy all the time? Name me one person in the world that's happy all the time. It's impossible. Of course, it's possible to feel joy in your body, to be a joyful person. That's a completely different thing. When I'm sad or when I'm angry, I'm joyful because that's my nature. I know that I have everything I need to have a good life, and I'm joyful and I'm grateful for that. But if you ask me if I'm happy every day, running and jumping up and down, then no, I'm not. But I choose my hard. And instead of allowing life to get hard on its own, I decide to choose my hard every day. And this means that I want to be, I wouldn't say in control, that's such a bad word, it doesn't resonate with me, but that I want to lead my life the best way I can, because I don't want life to impose hardships on me. And I know it will happen sometimes, but I feel like we reduce our chances if we take life in our own hands, if we decide to keep growing as human beings, because I believe that transformation and growth is the only way to truly be joyful. So, transformation and growth is the only way to be joyful. Because as human beings, if we're not growing, if we're stagnant, if nothing is happening, we will feel stuck. That is the most natural feeling in the world if we're not doing anything to expand our horizons. So, one big takeaway that I want you to take from this is to choose your heart, and to remember to always choose your heart in alignment with your higher self. So this leads us back to the question in the beginning. What does your higher self do? Who is your higher self? Is that person somebody who is helping other people? Is that somebody who is dancing samba every day? Is that somebody who is a business owner? Who is that person? What are the values of that person? What drives that person? And I'm pretty sure you can already have an idea in your mind what drives you. If you don't know, just take a look at people that inspire you. What kind of life do they lead? I knew the moment that I got asked this question by a mentor that I had. And I instantly knew. I thought of a person that inspired me most, and it was a woman that lives on the beach. That woman has a big family. They have their own restaurant, they have their own boat. They live on the beach. I don't know if I said it already, but I will repeat it. They live on the beach. She does yoga, she does meditation. She has 3 businesses. And I said to myself, this is it. This is what I want. And yes, I'm already working towards that kind of a life because the moment I realized my life can be whatever I want it to be, I took my life in my own hands and I chose my heart. And currently, I'm going through the hard phase. It's not easy talking to you about these things here. It's not easy exposing myself on Instagram. All of those things require huge energy right now. But the same thing as motherhood, I know that in 5 years, it will feel effortless and that I will be climbing some other mountains. And that's the beautiful process of life. We need to keep exposing ourselves. We need to feel vulnerable and naked like a tree in December if we want to blossom. Because if we're not exposing ourselves, if we're not vulnerable, our leaves will just fall off. And how will the new ones grow? They won't. It's a beautiful, beautiful process. So today, I'm inviting you to think about what kind of hard would you choose in your life? What drives you? Who are the people that inspire you and why? What are your values? How you see your life? I'm inviting you to dream big, to really open your heart, close your eyes, and dream big. Ask yourself the question and don't be shy to give yourself an amazing, big, dreamy, kick ass answer. Like nobody will hear you. I cannot hear you. I cannot hear your thoughts. You can. Do that exercise and see where it takes you. And I will see you next week for our next episode. Have a lovely day ahead and cannot wait until the next episode. Bye. Kisses.